my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast, where, as you know, our whole focus is to provide you with tips, tactics, strategy, what's working right now in the world of marketing that you can then take and apply to grow your practice right now, to serve more patients and to leave a greater impact, because that's what it's all about, my friends. My name is Mark Thackeray, and as always, I am honored to be here with you, however you're listening. You know, you could be driving, you could be in bed still, just flipping on a podcast. I don't know. But thank you for spending your time on the Dental Marketing Secrets Show. I'm excited about this next, it's a series, a 3-part series that I'm doing, but on the book Traction by Gino Wickman. It's a very popular book that a lot of practice owners have read, a lot of people in the business world have read. It's not specific to dental, but it's been highly adopted, I should say, among a lot of the most successful practices across the country. And it's a great book. I'm actually not all the way finished as of now, but I'm working my way through it because there's lots of different components, lots of different steps that you work through. But it's really cool. And I kind of liken it to, I look outside, I'm looking in my backyard in my window, and we have this tree house that I built during COVID. And it's a lot like building a house or a structure, where it provides you with the foundation and the directions basically to establish a well-founded structure, a well-founded business, a well-founded practice, so that then you can grow upwards, right? You can build up, you can build out. It allows you to do all these things and make your life simpler, make your life less stressful, and to provide you with direction. And I think that's what's so cool about this. As I've been working through this, I'm kind of taking my time. Usually I'm a pretty good reader, so I usually burn through books, but this one's been very good because I've kind of, I'll read a chapter or two, stop, write down thoughts, work on the exercises, go back and reread them, and kind of do that process a couple of times. So it's overall, it's taking me a little bit longer, but the end result has been fascinating. I've been really excited about this. There's things in here too that I didn't, and I'll get into this later in the series. But there's parts that I, going into it, I thought were a little lame, I guess you could say. I was like, I probably don't need that, but I've been very surprised at how helpful it's been as I've gained more clarity about the purpose behind those exercises. So I'm excited to share those with you as we get into this, but I wanted to give you a little bit more background on the book, and really the reason why I'm sharing this, because it's not necessarily marketing specific, but certainly marketing does play into this, but it's about the growth of the business. And you can do that in so many different ways, not just through marketing, but also through, efficiencies and through your team members and operationally. And there's so many ways to optimize your business. So I thought this would be very, very appropriate. And I also know that there are just so many practice owners and business leaders in general that face these similar frustrations, and I've gone through this myself, but finding and hiring, training, and retaining the right team members, that is a massive challenge for a lot of businesses, a lot of practices in particular, where I've seen, some are really good and they stay for a long time, which is awesome. But some I've seen are just, it's like this revolving door, unfortunately. And that is so taxing on a practice to try and retrain and find new employees and retain those people that you've already invested so much in. So that's one of the frustrations, but also this unpredictability, or of revenue, or maybe they've hit this plateau where they flatline in production. They can't seem to rise above that, or even the inability to make decisions. I see that a lot where it handicaps a lot of practices because they're just either they're too stressed, they've already got too much on their plate, so they avoid making this decision, or it's just they don't have enough information to make the right decision or a good, well-educated decision, and so they don't. Or they just an implementation challenge where they just don't have the right people in place, or they haven't trained those people to be able to act on those decisions that were made. So this book, Traction, provides essentially this solution to all of these challenges, and he does it. Wickman does this through this system that he created called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And now it's, there's been thousands of companies, tens of thousands of companies that have discovered this framework. They're using this framework to better their business. I'm just looking to see, I've got the copy of the book right here, copyright 2011. So it's probably more than double that now, I would guess, just because it's been, like I mentioned, it's been a very, very popular book in a lot of different industries, and especially dental. So with that, as I've gone through this and I've thought about, what could I say if someone were to ask me about the book, how would I describe it? And the best way I could describe the book and the framework so far is that it's similar to that analogy that I made about building a treehouse. It provides that foundation, but it also provides the direction, kind of the blueprint of things that you can focus on. Things like developing your team members, how to do that, how to make the most out of those employees that you have, so that they share your vision, they can communicate well with each other, they essentially solve their own problems, and they demonstrate accountability. If you were able to do that with all your team members, how would that change your practice? Can I get an amen for that? That sounds amazing, right? And we all are dealing with this. We're all trying to get the best out of our team members. We know that they have so much to offer. How do we unlock that? How do we help them buy into the practice, buy into the vision, so that they act like owners, this ownership mentality, and they're the ones who show initiative. They're thinking about things in terms of, how can I make this better? So that's one of the things that this book is really one of the things that stood out to me as I've been going through this, but also just this simplicity, this idea of simplifying your business so that you can reduce dramatically your business related frustrations. How can you simplify the process so that a lot of the confusion goes away? That okay, because I've decided on this or this value or this vision, that's by making that decision, it clears up a lot of future decisions because you've made that one decision, right? And it eliminates a lot of these frustrations of not having the vision, because then you're kind of guessing and going back and forth again. It also is what I've noticed too. It's a lot about, it helps you, or as you start to work through these things, it provides this clarity, like I mentioned, this blueprint, so that you can operate your business or your practice more smoothly. There's less friction. And as a result, there's less stress. You're not constantly fretting over every last detail because you have this laid out, and all these things, all these components, once you have built these up or enabled all these components to work well with each other, then you really have the potential to scale up as large as you want without breaking the system. Sometimes we're doing well and we just ramp it up, and because of a lack of infrastructure or vision or support or whatever the case may be, we end up breaking our own system. And this helps mitigate that. This helps prepare you with the right things in place so that you can, that right foundation, like I mentioned before, we're building a house, building a tree house, whatever, so that you can build up or out as much or as little as you want. So very, very cool. And I don't know if that probably doesn't sound too bad, right? As we're working through all those things. And the cool thing is I'll be working right alongside you as well as we go through this. And I think that's what's so exciting about it to me is, even last night, as you work through this and you allow your mind to just stew on these things and to meditate on these things, new ideas, little nuances, little refinements will come all times of day. It's so wild. It could be in bed last night or early in the morning, and it just, things start to click and fall into place. It's really, really powerful. And like I mentioned, even on things that I didn't think would be very relevant or important to me. So super cool. Very, very excited about that. But before I go on, I also wanted to let you know that our sponsor for this episode, which is SPP Dental Partners, is giving away a free copy of the book Traction. And all you have to do is go to www.sppdental.com/traction and fill out the form. Easy as that. You fill that out and they'll send you a copy of the book, or you can click the link in the show notes. I'll make sure I put that up there as well. But this book has been, and the reason they're doing this is because this is one of those influential books for them, that's really been a revelation for their organization. And they have generously agreed to provide a copy to all practice owners that want one. So you just, like I mentioned, click the link, www.sppdental.com/traction. That's SPP as in saving private practice. sppdental.com/traction. You fill out the form and your copy of the book will be sent to your house. Pretty awesome. So make sure you grab that copy and crack it open and get started. You're going to love it. So let me give you a little background on the Entrepreneurial Operating System, this EOS framework that I was talking about. So this isn't a theory that was cooked up over a long weekend in the woods. It wasn't just something that he threw together, but it's a framework that Wickman has refined for over 20 years. He's been using this for 20 plus years in the real world, working with tons of different business owners and entrepreneurs from all different types of industries too. He's completed more than 1,300 full day sessions with leadership teams from more than 120 different organizations, which is wild when you think about it, which adds up to over 10,000 hours of hands-on planning, hands-on teaching, hands-on coaching, facilitating, and solving leadership problems. It's super cool. And as you get into this book, he provides a ton of different industry examples, and again, showing that he's done this for all types of verticals. It's not specific to one, but it can be applied to so many different types. And this framework is really the culmination of all that work that he's put in throughout the past 20 years. And there's 6 parts to the framework. We're going to go through each of those in following episodes. So the next episode, I'll cover the first 3, and then the last episode, I'll cover the last 3. But the 6 parts to the EOS framework are vision, data, process, traction, issues, and people. And what's cool is this book, early on, it also gives an organizational checkup so that you can evaluate yourself on key aspects of your business, such as how am I doing 10-year goals and targets? Does everyone know about those? Your unique differentiators. Is everyone on your team the right fit for what you're trying to do? It's just a really great way to see where you're at and where else you can focus your efforts and gain some more momentum, to gain some more clarity. And one of the things too, it's funny, as you get into this book, he shares this story, and I wanted to share it on here because it's a great way to set this up. He shares a story of an entrepreneur who slips and falls off the edge of a cliff. And on his way down, he manages to grab onto the end of a vine. You see this all the time in like cartoons, right? He slips off the edge and he's scrambling and he grabs this vine and avoids this crazy death drop, right? I mean, he's hanging right there midair, 1,000 feet from the top and 1,000 feet from the bottom. And his situation is utterly hopeless. And so he looks up to the clouds and decides for the first time in his life to pray. And he says, "Is anybody up there?" he asks. And after a long silence, a deep voice bellows down from the clouds, "Do you believe?" "Yes," replies the entrepreneur. "Then let go of the vine," says the voice. And the entrepreneur pauses for a second, looks up again, and finally responds, "Is there anybody else up there?" and I love that story because So many of us as practice owners, as business owners, we're just unable to hit that next level in our practice because we're unwilling to let go of the vine. We think what we have is that vine, is the only thing that we have. But in reality, if we can let go of certain things in our life, we can make room for those things that are even better, that are even more suited to what we're trying to accomplish. And it's, we all tend to feel this way at times. You want to grow your practice, but at the same time, you're frustrated, you're tired, you don't want to take on any more risk. But again, in order to grow, you need to be willing to take that leap of faith. You have to let go of that vine. And the good news about all this, like, I'm not saying you have to do this right now or or anything or tomorrow, but the good news is that you don't have to make any of these changes until you're fully comfortable on them, until you're clear on what each of these 6 EOS components are. And so we're going to go through those again in the next coming episodes. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about how, as you make room for these changes, there are, or you're even thinking about them, right? I mean, as you're contemplating these changes, you have 3 choices. If you're not happy with the current state of your practice, you ultimately have 3 options: live with it, leave it, or change it. Those are your options. If the first 2 are not an option, if you can't afford to live with it, if you can't leave it, right? Then it's time to admit that you don't want to live this way any longer, and it's time for a change. And I think a lot of us would feel that way. We're not just gonna close up our doors or go leave to find another practice. We're here for the long haul. We're gonna make this work. And so just recognizing that those are our options is already provides some level of empowerment, because you realize and recognize that you have control over the situation. There is something that you can do about it. And change is tough. Change is scary. It's requires a shift in how you do things, a shift in thinking. And one thing that's really interesting about all this is that you need to change from believing that you are your practice and letting it become its own entity. And I think one of the best ways to describe, as I was thinking about that, this other book came to mind, an older book called The E-Myth, and it's by Michael Gerber. It was one of the first entrepreneurial books I read after college, and I just loved it. It was so revelatory for me, because he describes this concept involving creating clear and well-documented systems and procedures for every aspect of your business, from customer interactions to marketing to operations, everything. You've got this kind of detailed employee manual, essentially, for each of those responsibilities. And the idea is that you're essentially creating a franchise prototype that can be replicated by others. And it's not, he doesn't say that you have to be franchising or have to even think about franchising in the future, but it's this whole process of acting like you would be franchising your practice or your business that allows you to build out these how-to manuals, essentially, these operations manuals for every aspect of your business. And it's so cool because this approach ensures that the business is not solely reliant on the owner's presence and decisions. So you don't have to be the one to be there present in order to say, okay, no, I need you to do this. This is what you do next. All these things, because you have the right systems in place, the right documentation in place, it can be scaled up without compromising quality or efficiency. And what's super cool about that too is that you also don't necessarily need to have experienced people per se. You can be training people up, and building them up and developing them, because you have everything well documented out on exactly what they need to do and when. It's so cool. And this, Gerber's idea of franchising your business is really all about building a business that operates smoothly and profitably, even in your absence, even in the owner's absence. and it stresses this idea of creating a replicable model that focuses on that process. So instead of, like I mentioned, instead of relying solely on the skills, efforts, experience of the owner or even other people, it's really it's built up, and it's the heavy lifting is done by the processes because they're in place, they're well documented. And as a result, your business or your practice becomes even less dependent on any one individual and has a much greater chance of long-term success. And this is something that I've adopted in my own business, where I have this documentation for these tasks. Like, that's just part of our process now. If we get a part of our the way that we work with our clients, either whether that's from reporting or campaign management or creation or content creation, anything like that, we have a process for that, and we've got a system that, you create a new task, and it's got the templates, it's got the directions, it's got videos, all to make sure that it's done right, that you're ensuring that quality, you're not compromising on that, you're making sure it's efficient so that they can, they know exactly where to go to when they need it, when they have a question, and it's not, I don't have to answer all those questions every single time, but they can refer back to this documentation, this single source of truth. Just super, super cool. And I think this idea dovetails really nicely with what the EOS framework, they're on the same wavelength, because once you build out the right vision, once you build out the right structure and have the right people in place, your company is then prepared to evolve, to optimize, and ultimately realize its full potential. And there's a couple of things that need to occur as you as you're starting to work on this process. You've got to be able to embrace these following beliefs. Okay, so you have to build and maintain a true leadership team. Again, we're going to go into some of these things down the road, but I just want to lay this out there now so that it can start planting the seed a little bit and start working on you. You must build and maintain a true leadership team. You have to embrace the fact that you are going to hit the ceiling at some point. Hitting the ceiling is inevitable in different ways. As an organization, as an owner, as a department, you're going to hit the ceiling. And just knowing that is going to help you prepare for when it happens. Okay. Third, you can only run your business on one operating system, right? And I think we, as in the dental industry, understand this. If you've ever tried to convert a practice management system to another, it can be a nightmare, right? I mean, it is terrible to go from one or to try and do both. If you're during that transition period where you've got both running to make sure that those are working, you need to be bought in all on one, right? So that's a key belief that you have to embrace. And then finally, you must be open-minded, you must be growth-oriented, and frankly, you must be vulnerable. And that last one hit me because it's not something that we typically seek out. We're not open-minded. Yes, we're applauded for that. Growth-oriented. Yes, we're focused on production where we want to get bigger, we want to get better. Vulnerability, not so much. I mean, it's become more and more popular because of the work of, Brene Brown really sticks out. There's others too that have highlighted the importance of being vulnerable. And ultimately, really, I mean, you look at every major thing in your life, all the most important things in your life typically come from moments of vulnerability, where you're willing to start a new practice despite the risk, despite the potential of failure. You're willing to ask someone out on a date or to propose to someone at the risk of getting rejected. You're willing to have kids in a crazy world like we live today, or you're willing to try a new sport or to learn a new instrument. All these things all these moments are moments of vulnerability where we could get rejected, we could feel stupid, we could feel awkward. But out of those moments come some of the best things in life. Relationships, a spouse, marriage, kids, family, I mean, development of your sports, your passions and instrument. I mean, all those things, you derive so much joy from those things. It's so cool. So cool. And so these are some of the beliefs that you have to, again, you must build and maintain a true leadership team. You can't be that, in other words, you can't be controlling every single decision in your practice. It's not sustainable. It's super exhausting. It's terribly stressful. And it also creates a bottleneck that restricts both efficiency and individual employee development. You don't want to be that bottleneck. You don't want a practice that falls apart the moment you step outside of the office. In fact, that's a great measurement tool that you can use, is how well does your team operate when you're gone? When you get it right, your team will actually probably operate better when you're not there because they want you out of the way. They stop meddling with what we're doing. We're good. We know what we're doing, So must build and maintain a true leadership team. Hitting the ceiling is inevitable. Again, just knowing this is going to help you prepare for those moments where you just hit a plateau. You can only run your business on one operating system, one system to rule them all. And I put that in there because I just finished rereading The Lord of the Rings, the one ring to rule them all, one system to rule them all. You want to be speaking the same language. You want to, it's one system for how you meet, how you set priorities, how you plan, you establish your vision, how you communicate internally, externally, how you follow up, all these things. That one system is going to provide you with clarity and direction. Again, so that you're not miscommunicating with each other. There's less friction because you're not trying to decipher, or you're not trying to translate what this person's saying versus what this person's saying. It's all in this one system that you all have adopted. And then finally, again, you must be open-minded, growth-oriented, and vulnerable. So those are the 4 beliefs that you need to adopt as we work through this. And again, it's all with this desire to build this framework or this foundation that's going to help you dramatically reduce your business related frustrations. It's going to help you develop your employees so that they share your vision, so that they are willing to take ownership, so that they solve their own problems, so they demonstrate accountability. It's also going to help with efficiencies, to run more smoothly. You're going to reduce your friction, which is going to reduce your stress level on all counts, yours in particular, but also everyone else on the team. And then it's also going to provide you with the structure and the foundation to scale up as large as you want without breaking your system. So I'm very, very excited to dive into these 6 components in the next 2 episodes. But I wanted to just kind of lay this out, this foundation first, give you an overview of what we're talking about, and also to encourage you to go get your free copy of the book so that we can work through this together. And again, before you do anything else, make sure you go grab that copy by going to sppdental.com/traction. That's SPP as in Saving Private Practice, sppdental.com/traction. It's compliments of our sponsor, SPP Dental Partners, who, again, they personally use and have adopted this framework, and they help their clients apply this framework to elevate their practice, their business operations, and their lifestyle. It's a fantastic book. Again, that's sppdental.com/traction. Okay, that's it for today, my friends. Stay tuned for the next episode in this series that covers those first 3 components to the EOS framework. We're going to talk about vision, we're going to talk about data, and we're going to talk about process. And I appreciate you for joining us today on the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review for this podcast, wherever you're listening to it, whatever outlet you're using to listen to this podcast. Please rate our show. That would be tremendously helpful. And share it with your friends, share it with your peers, share it with your team. I would love that. And until next time, my friends, be good.